Did you know that 2024 is the 20th anniversary of the Scott Pilgrim franchise? These stories mean a lot to me, inspired me as a writer and an artist. Ever since I dreamed of making this channel, I've always wanted to make a massive retrospective on the franchise. The books, the game, the movie, everything. Now sounds like the perfect time. This project will consist of my analysis and thoughts on the various facets of this franchise. You can think of this like a book club, where we offer our thoughts and ideas on each volume. In this case, the series will assume that you've at least read all of the books before, so I won't be spending time recapping each story. I'd suggest you read the corresponding volume with each part and come back to the corresponding video with your own thoughts. I think it would be real fun to make a follow-up video with all of your ideas and discussions, so please comment. Without further ado, let's kick things off with Book 1, Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life. I think it would be appropriate to examine the largest barrier to entry for this series, Knives Chow and her treatment in the story. It's a complicated situation. Often in discussions of the story, blame is put on the text for glorifying abusive minors. Others often blame readers for not recognizing how the story condemns Scott for dating Knives. In my opinion, both sides are valid in their opinions. Knives is central to a core theme of abandonment in relationships. However, the issue lies with how the story resolves this conflict. Almost every character in the story has been through rejection or has rejected someone in the past. In the same way, almost every character takes turns mistreating Knives in some form. Knives is a character, much like many other characters in the story, who is desperate for attention and validation. She's someone who gets beaten and bruised for her attempts to deal with this hurt. It's one of the more difficult aspects of the story to return to. The core issue is that while the story highlights this cycle of hurt the cast participates in, I can't think of a solution that the story offers to resolve it. Towards the end of Book 6, Scott and Ramona recognize that they aren't perfect people and that they can't run away from their flaws. But what strides are they making to resolve these flaws? There's a promise of improvement, but not a lot of results. There's a few counters to my reading. For one, the story does explore the idea of people not being entitled to closure. There's a bit at the end of Book 3 where Scott hopes the experience would erode the hurt from his past breakup, but that doesn't seem to be the case. There's also Knives separating from the group for a while in Book 6, learning more about herself and growing as a person. Maybe in some alternate universe she could reconcile with everyone, but it's probably for the best that she dealt with her issues on her own. The biggest counter is that in Book 3 Scott does apologize for how he treated Knives. I want to mention that I came to this analysis before starting this project. There's likely holes in my reading and it would be interesting to see how it evolves as I continue reading. It's fascinating how much Ramona disrupts the world with her presence. She isn't much different from the rest of the cast, yet she has a profound effect on their world. Ramona is an invader in the narrative who forces Scott to care beyond himself and break the selfish cycle. Before her arrival, everyone was sedentary, drifting along an easy and uneventful path. For Scott, it's this comfort that he craves. It's a soothing salve that washes away the failures and loneliness of the past. Ramona represents a new reality, something tangible and substantive. This new tangible love comes with a greater challenge for him to overcome. For the first time in a while, Scott is forced to work towards the future he wants. It's this new drive that causes massive change for the cast. It is truly interesting how much change Ramona brings to the world of Scott Pilgrim. I wonder how much change she brought to the lives of her exes. I also wonder what would have changed if she never showed up in Scott's life. There's been a lot of discussion about the franchise concerning its nonsense threshold. This concept revolves around the escalating absurdity of the Scott Pilgrim world, and how comfortable the cast is with its absurdity. From people with strange powers to the mechanics of subspace, this world only ever gets stranger as the books go on. This threshold does bring with it some concerns, mostly about how developed these concepts are, and how their increased prominence muddies the narrative for the worse. That's a discussion more suited for Book 6, but for now I'm more interested in exploring the concept of the League of Evil Exes. This band of rejected lovers poses so many questions. One immediate question is why they even bother fighting Scott if their beef is with Ramona. Considering how early in Scott and Ramona's relationship the exes start their attack, I doubt Ramona would be too wounded about Scott kicking the bucket. In this case, why don't they just fight Ramona instead? Maybe it's a little uncouth to be beating up your ex-girlfriend, but we are talking about evil villains, so maybe this is an unnecessary concern. What happens if any of the exes succeed in eliminating Scott? Do they fight Ramona next and deliver her to Gideon? Are any of the exes aware of Gideon's ultimate plan? What do they stand to gain from this alliance? Considering Roxy still has feelings for Ramona, I doubt she'd be into her being put into a cryostasis. I find it very interesting that any of the exes are cooperating with each other. Ramona cheated on some members with other members. There's also the likely possibility that these exes were dumped in order, meaning that Ramona moved directly from one ex after dumping another. How any of them are able to work together is beyond me. I guess their bitterness is stronger than any petty envy they might have for each other. Finally, is Ramona aware of Gideon's ultimate plan? She seems to be aware of the League's attacks. Why does she resign herself to this? Is it some sort of curse? The theme of Book 1 revolves around substance, the substance or fullness of life and of a person. Scott craves substance and he searches for it within relationships. Scott initially goes with Knives because she's easy. He misses being loved and needed. Knives is easy in the sense that he doesn't have to put in any effort. This causes the relationship to lose value to him. Ramona is the inverse of Knives, a person with life experience and intrigue. Scott becomes attracted to her and makes the effort to establish the relationship. Effort equals value. Ramona is also the inverse of Knives because she is a person of substance. She has established her own identity. Knives, on the other hand, is still trying to find herself. This can be seen in how she rips off Kim's style towards the end of the book. This could be seen as her trying to integrate herself into the friend group. This doesn't seem to work, and this leads the cast to view her as shallow. Does Knives really lack substance, or are the standards of the people around her too high? The main cast consists of people who reject or are constantly rejected, a group of wasteful lovers who are conditioned to mistreat and reject when things are not up to snuff. Due to the whiplash of his devastating breakup with his previous girlfriend Envy, Scott is dedicated to maintaining the facade of control. He craves a sense of stability and rushes to easy solutions for his problems. His manufactured life is precious to him, but it's also little, lacking substance. He has the chance to find real love, to create a real life, but he has to risk facing adversity again. Scott may have the appearance of someone who has it all together, meeting a cute new girl, being in a cool band, and being a powerful fighter. However, this is just the beginning, and Scott is at the cusp of collapse.